Hi, Rod Fleming here. Today I'm going to talk about the Bugis or Buginese people who live in Indonesia, and they're fascinating. They've got some very interesting cultural quirks. But before we do that, please remember to like and share the video and to go onto one of the links that I will give you in order to contribute a little bit towards the making of these videos and the research that I do. I'll put up the links after this and you'll run them in a strap underneath, and they're also in the text box below. So please, even a tiny amount, a couple of dollars, a couple of quid, price of a pint, that helps enormously. So please stick your hand in your pocket and contribute. So the Bugis or Buginese people live in Indonesia. They specifically live in a place called Sulawesi, which is in Sumatra. They're quite spread out now. They have expanded from their home base, and they number in total about 6 million. It appears that originally they may have come from South China. We're not sure. They are nominally Muslim. They converted to Muslim from animism in the 16th century, when Islam was spreading rapidly across this region. And consuming local lifestyles as much as they could. But the Bugis retained a particular facet of their culture which they've never let go, although it may perhaps be dying back a little bit now. I'm doing this because this is something that is often misrepresented by TRAs, and it's misrepresented in many sources, who say that the Bugis have 5 genders. They don't. And a moment's study of Bugis society will show you that they don't have 5 genders, they only have 2, just like everybody else. And how does that work? How can we possibly have a situation where foreign observers and others are seeing the Bugis people and claiming they have 5 genders, when in fact there are only 2? And the reason is that Bugis society formally accepts that there are 5 different classes of individual within the culture, and these are called the Makunrai, the Oroani, the Kalabai, the Kalalai, and the Bisu. And you know, I mean, this is one of the reasons, by the way, you must never ever trust what Wikipedia says. In contrast to gender binarism, Bugis society recognises 5 genders, and again, Makunrai, Oroani, Bisu, Kalabai, and Kalalai. And it claims that the concept of 5 genders has been a key part of their culture for at least 6 centuries, according to an associate professor from Auckland University, someone who doesn't really know what she's talking about, evidently. The essential point here is that the Bugis recognise that there are men born male, men born female, women born female, and women born male. Right? That's the essential groups. But these are only 2 genders. There are men and women. Now they accept that men can come into this situation from either a male beginning or a female beginning, and the opposite is true for women. But there are still only men and women. There are not 5 genders. There are 2 genders, men and women. And it's not really clear why this particular misinterpretation has come about, although one is tempted to believe that this is a typical TRA trick. The Kalabai are those who are male, they're males, but they take on the role of women. The Kalalai are females who take on the role of males. Heterosexual males. Let us point out this quite clearly, that even this lot do recognise that Kalabai, that is the women born male, are actually homosexual. They have become heterosexual women, right? So they're trans women, and the Kalalai are trans men, but they're still men and women. So there's still only 2 genders, and that leaves us with a 5th interesting, and really perhaps the most interesting of them all, because this idea that you can be a woman having been born male or having been born female is actually very widespread across Southeast Asia and Asia generally. The fifth type, which is very interesting, is called the Bisu. Now, these are actually priests. And there was some confusion, and you will find that the writing about this is fairly confused. But in fact, originally, and for hundreds of years, the Bisu were actually literally intersex people. That is, people whose sex could not be determined at birth by examining their genitalia. So they were actually intersex. And in recent months, I read an article just the other day, which is saying that there's a problem now because there are reducing numbers of intersex people within the Bugis community of 6 million or so, and it's down to maybe 40 or 50 genuine Bisu who were born intersex, that is, they couldn't be identified as male or female, and who grew up to be priests. And they're very highly revered. They officiate at weddings and other official ceremonies. So we don't know why there has been this reduction. It's just not clear, and I guess that there will not be enough research done to find out. It could be something to do with healthcare. It could be that there was some genetic reason why there was an increase in intersex in that population in the past. We just don't know. But what some Bugis who want to preserve the culture are now saying is that they're going to have to take some people and train them to be Bisu who are not actually intersex, which is obviously problematic because it doesn't really fit into the system. There's already places for everyone, and so to take one of them and put them inside this context of Bisu is difficult. It's culturally difficult. We just don't know why there's a reduction. I want to discuss this a little bit because I keep seeing the Bugis being claimed as, by Western TRAs as some sort of flagship of the gender non-binary or the rainbow. It's an absolute lie. It's a terrible defamation of these people. They believe absolutely in the gender binary. They just believe that there are two ways you can become a man and two ways you can become a woman. It's simple as that. But they still have men and women. You are either a man or a woman in this culture. You're not floating in the middle. You're not doing all this kind of non-binary nonsense or any of the other things that are going on. You're just going to fit into society, and the society will accept you. So if you're a boy who likes men, you will grow up into be a calabai. That is, a woman who is born male. And you will, let's see here, calabai will be, when a wedding date has been agreed on, the calabai will be approached and they will negotiate a wedding plan. So they perform services at weddings and so on, which are very similar to those carried on by similar groups in other Asian countries. For example, the Hijra in India. The calabai will be responsible for setting up and decorating the tent, arranging the bridal chairs, bridal gown, so on, and all the food. On the day itself, some calabai remain in the kitchen preparing food, while others form part of the reception, showing guests their seats. So they have an honorary role there, in which they are appearing as women and officiating at wedding ceremonies. The kalalai, these are females, but they take on the role of heterosexual males. In other words, they're lesbians. They dress and present as men, hold masculine jobs, and typically live with female partners and adopt children. Right? So there's no question here of 5 genders. There's a question of 2 genders. And an interesting quirk, which, unlike the West, very much valorizes genuine intersex people who are given a very specific role within the society, an elevated and honorific one. So there you go. That is the Bugis. Don't believe the lies about them. They've got 2 genders, not 5.